This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruschi.
That it is. And today we're going to be talking about a rather bizarre string of murders that occurred recently in a town called Ocklawaha, Florida. Where first when I saw it, I thought, is this in Hawaii? But it's not. Three Florida teens found dead. Sheriff saying that the murders could be linked to wannabe gangs. Interesting. I always think of the Spice Girls when I hear the word wannabe. It's like, so tell me what you want, what I really, really want. I want a gang in my town of 1,500 people. Officials haven't really released much information yet, but the teens, in fact, did know each other and were together before the murders. Carol, this is an interesting story that you found.
It's really bothersome to me. And as you go through it, you'll see why, because there's not much information that they've released to anybody. The town's 1,500 people. If anyone has ever lived in a town the size of 1,500 people, everyone knows everyone. At one point, the cops say, quit, sharing all this stuff on social media. That's not true. It's 1,500 people. The town can go to the grocery store and gossip.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, if we could get actual information shared, there wouldn't be as much,
exactly
rumors.
That's why people are speculating, because they don't know and they're scared. 1,500 people and 3 teenagers found murdered.
Yeah, that's
enough to scare anybody.
That's like a horror movie plot in a lot of ways. And if you're a town of 1,500, yeah, people are going to be talking no matter what.
And when you don't have any information to go off of, all you're going to do you're going to talk about the rumors with your friends. Of course you are. Did you hear anything? What have you heard? Well, I heard this. He heard that. And that's what you do. 3
teens shot in the head in Ocklawaha, Florida. Police on the hunt for the triple killer. 2 16-year-old girls and a 17-year-old boy were discovered dumped in 3 separate locations. 2 victims were found deceased at the scene, and the third was found in critical condition and later died at the hospital. Marion County Sheriff Billy Woods said on Tuesday that the 3 teenagers were all friends and their murders may be linked to a wannabe gang. However, they have told police to stop speculating, to stop speculating and spreading rumors on social media. He said the murders were an isolated incident and not the work of a serial killer, and rumors spread throughout the community. How do we know that already?
I know. That's my thing. This was just last weekend, and it was from Thursday to Saturday. So of course you're going to talk about any possibilities. I would think you couldn't rule out anything.
I think sometimes,
How do you know it's an isolated incident?
It was similar if you remember the beginning of the Kohberger case. There were some very bizarre statements that were made. Some turned out to be, fairly accurate. And we speculated going, well, how would you know that? And then it turned out they did know it. But there were times too where they did misspeak, where they came out and said too much too early, or they made statements that they didn't know enough about. And it caused a lot of anxiety and speculation in that community. So the cops have ruled out a serial killer here, and they have provided no further details on suspects or motives. Teenagers found over the course of 48 hours. Police were initially called to a location in Forest Lakes Park on Thursday, March 30th. When they arrived, they discovered a young woman with a gunshot wound in a dumpster by the side of the road. She was taken to the hospital in critical condition and later died of her injuries. She was identified as Layla Silvernail, who's 16. She's the only victim who has actually been identified at this point. The next morning, less than a mile from the first crime scene, police found a 17-year-old boy dead of an apparent gunshot wound to the head. On Saturday, April 1st, police received information that Layla Silvernail's vehicle was partially submerged in a nearby body of water. They obtained a search warrant for the car and found a 16-year-old girl dead inside the vehicle. She had also died of a gunshot wound. Little information about the teenagers and their alleged killer has been made public, but Woods claimed on Tuesday that police are looking into more than one suspect. 15 detectives have been assigned to the investigation, according to the sheriffs, and they have increased police presence in Ocklawaha. When questioned by reporters on Tuesday, Woods said he couldn't go into more detail about how the teen's death were connected to a wannabe gang, or reveal a potential reason for their murder. He also stated that they do not know what the teenagers were doing prior to being killed and if they were all shot at the same time. Wood said, let's be frank, anybody who associates with a gang at some point in their life, they've done something wrong, whether they've been arrested or not. It's not a gang because it's unicorns and everything else. It's a gang because they do illegal stuff. Unicorns in a gang would be interesting, though. I'll say that. Woods told everyone in Ocklawaha to go about their daily lives and told parents they don't need to worry about the alleged gang as long as they're paying attention to what their kids are doing. He said that he has assured the victims' families that their loved one's killer or killers would be arrested soon. Okay, Ocklawaha.
No peace of mind.
That's no peace of mind at all.
Because it's like, it's not a serial killer. It's wannabe gangs. Now, don't be afraid of the wannabe gangs. Wait, they just murdered 3 people. I'm kind of afraid of them.
If there's a wannabe gang, and were these kids involved in anything like that?
And kind of implies that by saying, let's be frank, anyone who associates with a gang, by that statement right there makes it sound like these kids have associated with a gang. Now, if you're in a town of 1,500 people, let's face it, we all know who the wannabe gang members would be.
And if it's not a gang, if it's a wannabe gang, that implies it's not a gang, which would imply it's a murderer.
Thank you.
Like it's not like just because you say someone's in a wannabe gang doesn't necessarily make it a gang hit just because they're wearing baggy clothes and listening to rap or something like that.
These are these are just wannabe gang members, so they might have their own way of dressing.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's still someone or some ones who are committing murders. So I guess we just have to wait to learn more.
Here's the thing. So they don't know what the teenagers were doing prior to being killed at this point, or at least they haven't said anything. But then they've said that statement about the gangs, and it's not a gang because it's unicorns and everything else. It's a gang because they do illegal stuff. Does that imply that these kids were doing something? And how do they know that? Because they don't even know what they were doing prior to being killed.
Well,
makes no sense.
This is one of those interesting moments in a case where either the police know a lot of shit that they're not saying, and that's why they're able to come out and make very confident statements like this, or it's a case where it's a very small police department. They never really deal with things like this, and they're really speaking out of turn. Which may bite them in the ass later. We don't know yet.
Exactly. It is one or the other. And what kind of surprised me that in everything I've read about this, I didn't see where the Florida Bureau of Investigations, I guess it would be the FBI there, because here it's the KBI, the Kansas Bureau. So the FBI, I don't know. But usually, like in a town of 1,500, I'd be calling them in immediately.
Well, they said they have 15 detectives on the case.
Which is more than what the police department would even have.
Yeah, so
I'm assuming that's where they've come from.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, and I hate to say this, but I lived in a town about that size when I was growing up. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in the police solving anything.
Well, I mean, when you don't have if it's something they don't normally deal with, they're likely not going to have. It's like, and it's with anything. It's like, you go and you meet somebody who works at McDonald's. I don't have a lot of confidence in them necessarily grilling me a gourmet steak dinner or something. It's like maybe they can cook, I don't know, but because they're there, they don't deal with that sort of thing on a regular basis. They're likely not going to have the resources or the knowledge on what to do. It's not their fault. It just is what it is. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Hopefully they do get the right resources in there to try and shore this thing up.
There's 3 separate crime scenes.
Yeah.
And I think they're all very unusual. So the one girl who they actually found who was still alive is inside a dumpster. The other girl is in that girl's car, half submerged in a pond. And the other guy's about a mile away. So how did all of that happen? There's 3 totally separate crime scenes, but yet they all have to be connected. And did the parents report their kids missing? Like maybe they found the one girl, but the other girl wasn't found 48 hours later.
There's a lot of questions in terms
There's
of,
so many,
like
so many questions, and it's tragic.
like when did these things happen? Were they all together at the same time? I mean, there's just so much.
And who are the wannabe gang members that they obviously must know about?
Yeah, it's a lot, and hopefully that they are on the right track to narrowing this thing down and figuring out the answers. But we'll keep an eye on this one and keep you updated as it progresses.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers
The
Podcast
Hidden Killers Podcast.
with Tony Bruschi.
Hey, if you like the program and you want ad-free content, you can get it. Get everything ad-free, actually. Go to Apple Podcasts. Check it out there. And with that, you even get for 3 days free when you sign up to be a premium subscriber. The link also in the episode description. For Carol, I'm Tony. Stay with us.